Friends, as one's knowledge of humanity grows, one is continually confronted with the problems of understanding one's fellow men and, of course, in consequence of working harmoniously with them, particularly with those who possess qualities of character which are markedly different from one's own. It is often hard to get on with such people, isn't it? One can hardly fail to be impressed by the almost infinite variety of human beings, by the richness of individuality amongst mankind, and by the great diversity of human gifts. Humanity includes the explorer, dauntless in character, and the nun, devoted and gentle very often. The soldier and the hermit are different. The monk or the recluse, the politician, the statesman, the businessman and businesswoman, outwardly active in world affairs, and on the other hand the scientist and the scholar, immersed in their researches, largely in retreat. All these and many others, opposite and diverse as they are, go to the making up of mankind. Is there then a key by means of which human nature may be understood and this complexity of human types comprehended and reduced to order? As my title suggests to you, Theosophy answers yes, and further says that the key is numerical, the governing number being 7. Thus, there are said to be main types of human beings, each with its outstanding natural attributes and qualities. Of course, all powers and all characteristics are within every human being, but in each of us there is a preponderant tendency and power. And when you discover this, you have the key in your hands to the understanding of various types of people and understanding human nature itself. What then are these 7 outstanding qualities, and what are the types of men by whom they are exemplified? An immense subject, isn't it? And of course I can only refer those who are interested to theosophical literature on the subject of the 7 rays, as they are called. By the reason for this name rays, the 7 rays, describing the different temperaments, is that man's innate powers are due to the presence in him of a particular ray of the divine light shining predominantly in this or that man or woman. All the 7 rays, shall I use that term from now on? All the 7 rays are in us all, in everyone. And all of them must eventually be developed to the highest possible degree, and will be so developed. But throughout the evolutionary process, the basic ray quality will predominate. Now let us look at these 7 rays, one by one, and notice the outstanding and predominant characteristic of those on each of the rays. Please remember as I do this that all the rays are in us. All the qualities, all the divine powers are present, but one predominates. So we will take the ray of power. This is sometimes called the first ray, the ray from which the first aspect of the Blessed Trinity, the Almighty Creator and Father of the universe and of all that it contains, that particular ray of the first aspect shines in first-ray men. Such men are characterized by the qualities of willpower, of courage, leadership, and self-reliance. They are great soldiers. They are the explorers, the rulers, and the statesmen among men. Aggressive dictators who become tyrants are examples of the misdirection for destructive purposes of the will of God as it becomes active in them. Ultimately, however, this tremendous power will by them be turned to constructive purposes only, to the attainment of victory not over others but over their own lower nature, and to the conquest and exploration of the higher aspects of the divine in man and in nature. Then such people, all the first-rate people indeed, become great spiritual leaders. One might almost say spiritual kings. The first-ray ideal, particularly that of explorers, is to strive, to seek, to find, and never to yield. That is typical of the first ray. Now, the second ray type of people, so very different. The second ray is that of wisdom and universal love, of spiritual insight and intuition. These qualities are generally combined with a deep sense of that oneness with others from which compassion and sympathy are born. This type of man, the second-ray man, is generally the sage or the natural-born teacher and healer of the world, the reformer too, and the philanthropist, the lover of his fellow men. And this inner, innate love often overflows to include the members of the lower kingdoms of nature as well, particularly the animals, the great humanitarians, and all lovers and protectors of the members of the animal kingdom like St. Francis and modern animal welfare workers. They all display some of the qualities of the second of the seven rays. In them, the second or the Christ aspect of the Blessed Trinity is predominant, and their destiny is to become increasingly Christ-like in all-embracing love and wisdom. The phrase, love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, partly expresses the second ray ideal of love. Now, the third ray. That is the intellectual ray, one might say. It's that of creative ideation, comprehension, of the understanding of life and of all the principles and underlying laws of life. Third-ray men easily achieve this. They also have the qualities of adaptability, impartiality, and tact as predominant powers. They often possess, too, a penetrative and interpretative mind. What type of men are these, then? Well, the philosopher, the ambassador, the diplomat, the strategist, the organizer, the chess player, and the judge, for example. Many great generals of today need to possess both the indomitable and combative willpower of the first ray and the organizing and strategic ability of the third. Field Marshal Montgomery is a good example of this blending, for he is described as a swift and fluid tactician, ready when necessary to revise the whole scheme of an attack, as he successfully did in the desert at Meretz, when a stiff Nazi counterattack upset the plan of battle. The psalmist's words, "Give me understanding and I shall keep thy law," 119th Psalm, by the by, "Give me understanding and I shall keep thy law," that expresses the point of view of the third ray. Now the fourth, midway between the first and the second triplicity of the seven. First three and second three have between them the fourth ray. This, then, is the ray of harmony, of balance, of beauty, and of rhythm. The type of man, therefore, is the artist, though the artistic expression and the medium chosen will generally be influenced by the presence and activity of other rays, sub-rays as we call them. But in general, fourth-ray people make the best artists, actors, and in some ways the best teachers, for they naturally dramatize their subjects and naturally like to illustrate them, which makes them easier to follow. And they also elevate people by the power of beauty. The words of the poet Keats exemplify the artist's highest ideal. You remember he wrote, "We must worship the principle of beauty in all things. And beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye need to know on earth, and all ye need to know." That, by the by, is taken from an ode on a Grecian urn by the poet Keats. Now we must move on from the fourth to the fifth ray, which is that of mental analysis and other attributes of the more formal mind of man, that which is generally called the legal mentality, capable of reasoning from effect to cause and of deducing a central general truth from a number of particulars. These men are the great mathematicians, the scientists and lawyers. Yes, and because of the deductive and analytical powers, the detectives, the people who feel they must find out. These people are generally on the fifth ray. Scott, the great explorer, who was a many-sided man with leadership, first ray, as an outstanding attribute, displayed a fifth-ray outlook when he said, "Science is the rock foundation of all effort." Scott, you know, has been described in these words, an undefeatable sportsman, buoyant, indomitable. Those are the qualities of the first ray especially. Now from fifth, the ray of the analytical mind, to the sixth, which is that of fiery enthusiasm, ardor, one-pointedness, devotion, and sacrificial love. Sixth ray people are the mystics, the devotees, the evangelists, and often the martyrs, who count life well lost in the service and furtherance of a great cause. General William Booth, the great founder of the Salvation Army, was in that work a blend, as you will see, of the sixth ray and the first ray. For in serving his master and his fellow men in devotion and sacrificial love, he employed the method, the military method of the first ray. To regard loyalty as the marrow of honor, and to be faithful unto death, these are ideals of those of the seven rays. Now we come to the last of them, the seventh ray itself. In some ways a synthesis at the physical level and through the physical body of man of all the rays. For the seventh ray is described as that of power in action, of will expressed physically, in ordered activity, in grace and precision. Nobility, chivalry, the military method, and a general magnificence are also shown by some seventh-ray people. The type of man is the ceremonialist, the ritualist, the pageant master, the producer, and the man and woman of true knightliness and royalty, love of magic, of splendor, and of perfection. That's an attribute of people on the seventh ray, and some of them would say, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing perfectly and well. Such then, very briefly described, are some of the qualities of each of the people in whom the one or more of the seven rays is predominant. But, as I have said, and I think it should always be remembered, All the rays are in each one of us, though the method and characteristic of one ray will generally predominate. In the main, as I've said, the ideal adopted by Scott and taken from Tennyson's Ulysses truly characterizes the first ray: to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Wilson's advice to Oates in the Antarctic when his feet were becoming useless was, slog on, just slog on. There, I think, in excelsis, you have one of the great qualities of the first ray: never to yield, to slog on. For people of the second ray, however, there is no religion higher than love, no achievement greater than effective and loving service. They would agree with the poet who said, "Those who walk in love may wander far, but God will bring them where the blessed are." The third ray is well exemplified in the Cavendish family motto, Cavendo Tutus, meaning secure by caution. Their prayer, as I've already said, would be, "Give me understanding, and I shall keep thy law, yea, I shall observe it with my whole heart." These people must know the reason for things. They must understand before they will give themselves to an action or a cause. Interestingly, the motto of the Theosophical Society, as also that of the Maharaja of Benares, is third ray in quality. It is, "There is no religion higher than truth." That well exemplifies the spirit of the Theosophical Society and of Theosophists. There is no religion higher than truth. The highest spiritual ideal of the fourth ray is exemplified in a saying of H.P. Blavatsky, the great co-founder with Colonel Olcott of the Theosophical Society in 1875 in New York. Madame Blavatsky is describing occultism and the occultist, the seeker into the hidden forces and powers in the universe and man. Madame Blavatsky said, "What the true occultist seeks is not knowledge or growth or happiness or power for himself, but having become conscious that the harmony of which he forms part is broken on the outer plane, he seeks the means to dissolve that discord into a higher harmony." Such, then, is also the driving impulse of people on the fourth ray: harmony, beauty, rhythm. That of the fifth ray, the ray of the scientist, you remember, in which the analytical, deductive mind is so strongly developed, the driving force of the fifth ray is well defined by Anton J. Carlson, who wrote very finely, I always think, these words: "The greatest thing in science is the scientific method, rechecked observation and experiments, objectively recorded with absolute honesty and without fear or favor. Science in this sense has as yet scarcely touched the common man or his leaders." Quite true, but the true scientist, the fifth ray man, is strongly imbued with that ideal. Now, a little more than I've already said about the sixth ray. One attribute of this ray is wonderfully expressed in a speech by Mr. Churchill to all ministers of his cabinet, other than war cabinet ministers, repeated in the second volume of his memoirs, called Their Finest Hour. The time is a very dark time, the time just before Dunkirk. And Churchill writes, "We were perhaps 25 round the table. I described the course of events, and I showed them plainly where we were and all that was in the balance. Then I said, quite casually, and not treating it as a point of special significance, 'Of course, whatever happens at Dunkirk We shall fight on. Then, he goes on to write, then there occurred a demonstration which surprised me. There was a white glow, overpowering, sublime, which ran through them and through our island from end to end. What splendid writing that is. And that white glow is typical of the burning ardor, the fiery fervor of the sixth ray. Coordination and the synthesizing of the many into the one are outstanding characteristics of those on the seventh ray. The ideals are physical efficiency, perfection, order in all the conduct of life, power perfectly and irresistibly made manifest. These are the qualities, in addition to those I've already put before you, of the people on the seventh ray. There, friends, I must leave a very great subject, but as I know it is difficult for you to remember the qualities of the different rays, let me just repeat them as I begin to close. Here they are. The first ray: power, will, courage, leadership, self-reliance. The soldier, the explorer, the ruler, the statesman, and leader of men. Second ray: qualities: universal love, wisdom, insight, intuition, philanthropy. Type: the sage, the healer, teacher, reformer, and lover of the fellow men. Now the third ray: qualities: creative ideation, comprehension, understanding, penetrative and interpretative mental power, adaptability, tact, dignity. Type: the philosopher, the scholar, ambassador, the diplomat, organist, chess player, astrologer, judge. Third, now the fourth ray: qualities: stability, harmony, balance, beauty, rhythm. Type: the artist, the mediator, the link, and the interpreter. Fifth ray: the analytical and logical mentality with accuracy and patience. Type of human being: the mathematician, scientist, lawyer. Sixth ray: qualities: one-pointedness, ardor, fiery enthusiasm, devotion. Type: the saint, the mystic, devotee, martyr, evangelist, loyal friend. Seventh ray: grace, precision, ordered beauty and activity, chivalry, skill, dignity, noble bearing, the military method, and splendor. The type of man: the priest, the ceremonialist, ritualist, pageant master, knight, politician, and producer. Such, then, are the qualities and the types of men of each of the seventh rays. Now, as I close, I just want to say this to you. Part of the great value of this knowledge of the seven rays is that it also breeds tolerance, born of understanding, particularly tolerance towards those from whom one differs. One learns to remember that each human being is following his own road to his own goal, and that's the right road for him. And when not harmful to others, that way or that road should be respected, even though it may be a very different road from one's own. This is beautifully expressed in the Hindu scripture, in which the Lord of the universe, speaking through the lips of the Lord Sri Krishna, says in effect words with which I will close this address to you. Here is the Lord of the universe, the supreme deity speaking. However men approach me, even so do I welcome them, for the path men take from every side is mine.